my skirt that I'm doing has pumpkins on it. And if I have my fabric and I have all my little pumpkins, this is what my fabric is gonna kind of look like, right? So I have my fabric, la la la, it's out here, and then I'm gonna cut this circle. The problem is that then once I wear this, my side seams become kind of here and here, and my front, I have a pumpkin that's upright, but then the back of my skirt, right, if we flip this around, the back of my skirt will then have an upside down pumpkin. So what that'll look like from the back is this. Wait, how to draw a pumpkin upside down? Bloop. Right, so then I'd have upside down pumpkins. So in pattern making / sewing, we call this a nap. So this fabric has a nap. A nap can be a pattern. In this case, it's a pattern, right? I have pumpkins on it. The pattern means, and the pattern isn't two-dimensional, right? So sometimes patterns do have also upside down ones, and that's part of the pattern. And if, they were dispersed equally and, half of them are upside down, half of them are right side up, I could get away with this, right? But my fabric, it only has one direction, right? So that creates a nap. The other thing that is considered a nap is like a pile on velvets. So velvet has a weave, right? And then it also has a third dimension where it has these pieces of fiber that stick up, right? So it's a really three-dimensional fabric. So it's got this little poof. And if you've ever touched velvet and you press it one way, it kind of shines one way. And then you press it the other way and it shines a different way. And that's a problem. Because if I cut this piece this way, and then I cut a different piece of the velvet 180 degrees around, then I have two different sheens of velvet stitched right next to each other, and it looks real funny real fast. So velvet is something that has a nap, and pattern fabric is something that has a nap. We can think of this also a lot with like stripes, right? So if I have a stripey stripe, a stripey stripe, the problem with this is that my side seams, what was once a vertical stripe, now has become horizontal with my side seams. So that's what we call a nap.
So here, typically if I was doing an actual circle skirt and cutting this as a circle, then yeah, those back pumpkins would be upside down. But it also means the side pumpkins, if I'm looking at me, right, so if my front of the skirt hangs like this, my side of the skirt is going to hang like that. And that's not like the worst thing ever, because again, if we were cutting this in a semicircle, it would hang like that. But it's prettier if it hangs like this, parallel to the whole body the whole way through.
All right. Because of the nap of my fabric and the width of my fabric, I need to cut my half circle skirt in two pieces. So what I'm going to do is I am going to cut it into bloop, bloop, with my grain line being here and here. That way, my center front, the center of my garment, and center back, the center back of my garment, will both have pumpkins that will be upright. So on the fabric, what that means is I'm going to cut like a quarter of a circle this way, and this will be my center front, and then I'll do that again going this way, and this will be my center back, and that way my pumpkins will all be upright. So this is the layout that I have to cut this. Again, because if I upside downed this, so if I had like the top of my waistband up here and the rest of my skirt over here, then I would have upside down pumpkins when I wear this, because then this would be upright, bloop bloop, and I have pumpkins be upside down. And we don't want that. So this is the cutting layout that I gotta go with. Yeah? But this way, everything goes with the nap, and all of the pieces are going to fit together beautifully, be on grain, and fit in with the nap. So in some fabrics have what is called a nap. A nap is a direction to your fabric. This can either be because it has a pile, like velvet, or because it has a pattern that is directional. So when you're cutting out your pattern, you're going to keep in mind what direction your nap is and where it should be in relation to your grain line or to different positions on your garment, right? So now you know how to distinguish whether your fabric has a nap or not, because if it has some sort of direction, you're going to look at a pattern and it's going to have a section in it that says pattern layout. So when you're reading commercial pattern in the instructions, 2 different layouts are in there for cutting. They usually say, use this for if your fabric has a nap, like here's the with nap cutting layout, and then they'll have a different one for if it doesn't have a nap, you can save more fabric, usually, and here's the cutting layout for that, right? So fabrics with nap, usually you use a lot more fabric because it has to be in specific directions, right? So now you know how to distinguish whether there's a nap or not. Now, the skirt that I have that I finished, you can watch the whole video. There's 2 videos, one on how to pattern it and another how to sew it. And you can watch either of those to get the full context for where some of these clips come from. But the skirt I'm wearing here is a half circle skirt. Now, the pumpkins are upright with the center front and the center back. This is just cut with 2 pieces. That means that my side seams they're cut on a little bit, not quite a bias, but a little bit more of a stretch of the fabric. So it's not on grain, not quite on bias. So the pumpkins at the side seams are going to be a little ensconced. That's totally fine, can absolutely happen. If I was doing a full circle skirt, that might be something where I would cut this in 4 pieces instead of 2 so that I can have upright pumpkins at the side seams, right? So it really depends on the garment of where you want your pattern to be upright and not, and also like the type of skirt or shirt or whatever it is. It depends on the garment. As an example of a non-nap fabric, here's an example of a dress that I patterned, built, and designed like 5-ish years ago. And the top layer of this is a chiffon, and I cut it as a circle, right? So it's a chiffon circle skirt. The reason I could cut it as one piece is because the textile itself, the chiffon, didn't really have a direction, right? So there's no pile, nothing I have to worry about there. The other reason is it's a solid color. There's no print, there's no extra design details on it. So what I can do is I could cut it all as one piece because I didn't have to worry about a nap, right? Versus my pumpkin skirt that I had to cut it in a certain way so I didn't have upside down pumpkins in the back. Here, that's not a consideration, not a problem, because there are no pumpkins, right? So this is a fabric that doesn't have a nap. And because of that, when I'm cutting, I could just take the fabric, set it all down, and I cut it on a fold, right? And then I made my little, I want it to be a petal shaped, so it's kind of petally shaped. And then I was able to cut it out and just use that, right? Just all in one go, the entire piece. Easy peasy pudding in pie, right? So that's an advantage to fabrics that don't have a nap, is you can cut a circle skirt in a single piece, and you really shouldn't do that for a fabric that does have a nap. So there you go. Now you know the difference. Now you know what a fabric nap is. Hope you had fun. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you later.